Hello, today I'm going to be talking about one of the most common reverse dye questions, which is what's the difference between bleach and White Brite? And this is kind of a question that has been asked in the tie-dye community for a super long time. There's some other videos on it, but I wanted to make just a totally comprehensive guide of the differences between the two. So I'm going to show you how I do both of them, and then we're going to talk about the pros and cons. So let's get into it.
All right, so getting right into it, the first thing I did is I just scrunched up my shirts. So for this experiment, I just decided to do a simple scrunch, and I'm securing it with a rubber band here, as you can see. I just did like 3 or 4. I wanted it to be kind of tight, so that one I doubled up. You don't have to do it this way. I ended up having um, a lot of dark space, and that's because I tied this pretty tight. So if you don't want a lot of dark, if you want more light, then do it a little bit looser. So here I'm just folding up the second one. All right, so here I'm adding White Brite into my hot pot of water. So this water was boiling, and then I set it in my sink and just added, you want to add about half a cup of White Brite in there. And then I stirred it around and I left it in there for about 10 minutes. Then here I'm mixing up the bleach solution, and as I let it sit there and with the bleach, you want like 50% water, 50% bleach. As I let it sit there, I was creating the hydrogen peroxide solution. So that is 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 8 parts of water. And that just neutralizes the bleach, so it stops the process so you don't like burn holes in your shirt. So that's an important step when you use bleach. So here I'm just doing the rinse out for the bleached shirt. You can see it's a little bit more orange. And here is the rinse out process for the White Brite shirt. You can see it is a little bit more like cream colored. Sometimes it goes a little bit gray. Every shirt is going to be a little bit different. Each brand will be a little bit different. Um, and then I put these in the washing machine to just wash out any excess stuff that was in them. And here are the final results. So here is that bleach result. It looks cool. The color's a little bit darker, so it makes it harder to put dye on it, more dye on it. But here's the White Brite result, which makes it a lot easier to add color back onto the shirt. So I prefer White Brite. But again, it's all a matter of preference, what you've got. Cost is pretty much the same for both. All right, so I'm going to run through the pros and cons with you really quick here. So the pros of White Brite are that you can use it to fix dye transfer accidents. So you can use it in that case, but there's not really a ton of other uses like disinfecting or sanitizing countertops. Like you can't use it for that purpose. It's not as multi-purpose. It's mostly for laundry. So that's kind of sometimes a deal breaker for people. They just don't have it on hand. So the other pro is that it's gentler on fibers. So it doesn't degrade the cotton the way that bleach does. Bleach can make holes. White Brite does not do that. The other thing I would say is it gives you a wider base, whiter base, not wider. And that means that you can add color on a lot easier. You can do bolder colors because it whitens it better. Another con I would say is that it is pretty unreliable on what it's going to do on which shirt. So there's been a lot of people who have tried to reverse dye something. They use White Brite and it just doesn't get any of the color out. And it's just because that fiber happened to be resistant to White Brite. So you would need to test it before you try to do a whole big project, because some projects will not reverse dye, but it's worth a try. I prefer White Brite because I'm mostly dyeing, but if you're looking for a more multi-purpose thing, bleach is your way to go. So let's talk about bleach. Pros of bleach: it is more readily accessible. It is cheap. White Brite is about $5 for. It's like a good. You could do like a solid like 10 shirts with it, but bleach is just readily accessible, super cheap. You can use it for cleaning. You can disinfect things. So bleach has more purposes than White Brite. However, the cons of it are it does weaken fabric, so you have to do a solution. You have to do the hydrogen peroxide solution at the end, which is just another step you have to do, another bowl you have to pull out. So that's kind of a bummer, but it is more handy to have on hand if you have hydrogen peroxide on hand as well. Again, the solution for that is 8 parts water to 1 part hydrogen peroxide for that neutralization solution. So the other thing I would say is that it doesn't get, so it's harder to put color back into the shirts. So here you can see a shirt I did where pretty much the only color that showed up was pink. There was blues and greens that were supposed to show up here, and they just all but disappeared. So I ended up going back in and putting in more pink because the other colors wouldn't appear. So that's another con, is just the colors are harder to put color back in. But it is a cool effect, especially like a Halloween type effect, to just have the orange. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please comment below. I love to answer all sorts of questions. Also in the link below, there is a free printable just for you, 12 of my very favorite folds. It's an ebook written out just for you. All I need is your email and I'll send it right to your email. I also have an Etsy store. If you liked what was in this video, it might already be gone, but there might be something else that you love in my store. So check that out. Thank you so much for supporting me. We'll see you next time.